Hi all, welcome to another video. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to look at custom select lists, such as this select box. Now, I won't lie, these are quite tricky because you can't actually do much with this list down here unless you use JavaScript. So today we're just going to look at how to style this and what you can do in here and which browsers do what, because all browsers seem to treat everything differently, annoyingly. And then either a bit later on in this video or in the next one, I will show you how to do a better option such as this, and that will be using JavaScript. And there's not too much JavaScript involved, to be fair, so it shouldn't hurt your brain too much. But it might be a good starting point for learning JavaScript because it is quite simple. So if you want to get your teeth into that, then fair enough. But let's start by doing this basic one over here. So the usual thing, we're going to do an index.html and styles.css. Okay, and let's zoom into this so we can see it. Exclamation, tab, and I've made that schoolboy error again and I'm in the style. So let's go over to the HTML and do it correctly. Right, let's open this with live server in your own time. There we go. Bring it over to here. We'll call it custom select menu. Save. There it is. Right, let's close that down a bit. Right, so we do need to put the link into the style sheet, so that was link tab, and then you can just type in the name of the style sheet, and only that because it's in the same folder. So, and also we're going to be using font awesome for the little arrow. So in the past I've said copy this URL and do a link, blah blah blah. Didn't realise there was an actual link over here to copy the whole line, so let's do that. Under, paste, save. Job done. That was much easier, and it's got all this other stuff in here. No idea what it means, but it must mean something. So anyway, we'll also need the font awesome icons here. That's not the right one. Yep, we'll get to that in a minute. So I suppose the first thing we need to do is put an actual select menu in, but I'm going to put it all in a container because of the arrow. We need it all in the same place, and you'll see why in a minute. So I'm just going to call this select container, and then we can put it all in here. Okay, so select is the tag. There we go. Let's give it a name. Right, I'm just going to call it heroes, if I can spell it. Heroes, and then I'm going to do the same for the ID. Oh my word. Copy, paste. There we go. Got there in the end. Right, and now we want to put our options in. So option tab, and we want to put a value, so let's put Batman in, and also the text Batman. And then if I grab this, now if you're on Linux, this is Shift Control Alt and the down arrow on the number pad, not the, well, on mine, and then you can just copy a few down. Haven't we got 6? Got 6 there? Yeah. It's different on different operating systems for VS Code. Some it's Shift Control down, some it's Control down, I think. But if you go to the VS Code cheat sheet, it will tell you there. So let's change these. So I'm going to double click that to highlight it. I'm going to hit Control, double click that to highlight that as well, and then I'm going to change this to Superman. This one I'm going to make Iron Man. This one Spider-Man. So we've got enough men. Let's put Wonder Woman in with a space, and this one Black Panther. Save, and there you go, we've got our list, and it just works, but it looks rubbish. So if we open it on Chrome, let's take this, another tab, paste and go, it looks different again. So it's not always the browser that does it. I mean, it's between the browser and the operating system, whichever one likes to take over the styling. But yeah, they look different, so that's pants. So let's minimize that. So within this select container, I'm going to put a down arrow, which is where this comes into play, the font awesome icon. So let's do down arrow, search for one of those, and we want the free ones. I'm going to use you, so that's what it will look like, and then just click to copy, paste, and then if we save this file, there it is. Alright then, if that doesn't show, and I learnt this painfully, it's because in styles, when we do the resets, you may have done this and this and this, and then set font family to something else like that, and this is what you get. Because if we inspect it, where is it? It's actually before element, so I've changed the font family from Font Awesome to Verdana. So if you got rid of, which is before, save, it's back, because we haven't changed the font family. So I'm going to leave it like that for now. Right, so we've got our list, we've got our down arrow, and that is pretty much it for HTML. So let's go back to the styles and work out what we're going to do here. Right, let's do the normal stuff here. Let's do padding 0, margin 0. Okay, so it's all removed from everything. And let's go body. Let's give it a background colour of what's dark slate blue, I think I had. Yeah, it's quite nice. And I'm going to do a height of 50 VH because I want to keep it up the top here. And do that, and then I can do a display, flex, and justify, content center, align items center. So there you go. But something interesting will happen with that later, and I'll show you. So the container, let's grab that. Let's go over here, paste it in with the dot in front of it, obviously. I'm going to give this a width of 250 pixels. Height is going to be auto, and I'm going to put a border on it for now so you can see it. There it is. And I'm going to do a position of relative because we want to position things inside the red border. So the position relative will say, well, if something, this is why we put this inside here, because then it becomes a child of this, and then when we come to position this, it will know that it's relative to this because we've just told it. So that's that. Let's move this up a bit. Okay, so the actual select, I'm going to do appearance none. Now that is going to get rid of this little arrow over here. So if you save, that's gone because we want to put our own in. So also I want to remove the border, better, and the outline, because when you select something it can often give an outline. Again, sometimes depending on what browser you use, but I don't want it there anyway. I'm going to do a border radius of 5, I think, and some padding of 20. That's top. 40, because we're working clockwise round, starting from the top. 20 bottom and 20 left. And we're giving the right more padding than the left because we want to make room for the arrow. So if we press save and we have a look at that, you can see the purple. That shows the padding around the text, and you can see on the right it's got more padding than the left. So let's leave that there, and we want to do a width of 100%, like so. So it takes up the whole 250 of the container. And I also want to give it a font size of 1.2 rem, which is 1.2 times default size, which is usually 16 pixels unless you've changed it. So there you go. So now we can place the arrow. So did I give that? Let's go back here. I'm going to give it an additional class by just adding it here and a space, save, and then I can come here and say, I could have used one of the existing classes, but there's always a possibility of conflict somewhere, so I'm not going to. Position, right, remember I said that the container had a position of relative and that the arrow was a child of select container. So position absolute within that container, and then I can say I want to go 15 pixels from the right, and from the top I want to do 50%, but let's do that. You'll see that the 50% starts from the top of this. So let's go to so yeah, if you can must be some way to highlight that. Where am I before? Anyway, the top there is 50% down, so we need to move it back 50% of this arrow, and to do that we'll do transform translate y, so it's on the y axis, and we're going to say minus 50%. And there you go, it's moved it up 50% of the height of that arrow. So I'm also going to say, because at the moment if you click on the arrow it doesn't do anything because it's on top of this select box, so I want the click to ignore that arrow. So we're going to say pointer events none. So it will ignore the click just go straight through it. And there you go. Let's move this down a bit. Right, options. Yeah, options. There's not a lot you can do with these. So if you do the option tag and you say font size 1 rem, nothing's going to change. I'll put it to 2 rem. And it will change. But that's pretty much it apart from the colour. If I say colour red, doesn't do anything. But if you go over to the Chrome, it does. Same with the background colour. So made that blue. Well, that's going to hurt eyes. Let's say grey. See, it's got, wow, that's horrible. It's got a grey background and red text, but over here in Firefox, nothing. So that's what I mean. Everything is treated differently depending on which browser you're using. But let's just go back here. So we want to take this. Let's go up here. Was that an ID or a class I gave that? ID, okay. So it'd be a hashtag heroes. Just want to give it a width of 100%. And that's overflowing. So I'll go up to here. Overflow hidden. And that does absolutely nothing. I think the reason being, let's have a quick look. Yeah, it's because it's its own browser's select list. It's not within the red border. It's not within our select container, so it goes off and does its own thing. So really, I mean, can we give it a width of 250 pixels? No. That's because of Wonder Woman. Let's put her back. There we go. Okay, so obviously the font size has an effect on that as well. So you can see that there is limitation. I mean, you can create your own. Let's get rid of that red border because it's absolutely horrible. So you can customize it to a fashion, but you know, you either do or you don't, in my opinion. Either you do it all or you don't do any. So that's pretty rubbish. So shall we have a look at how to create this? Yes, let's do that. Right, I'm going to create a new file here called index2 because I'm not very inventive, and another file called styles2.css, and we're going to basically start again. So we go over to here. In fact, let's just copy this lot. Just zoom out for a minute. There you go, zoom in, and I'm going to get rid of, I'm going to keep the container and the font awesome and everything, and I'm going to say custom select menu 2 and then let's open it. So here we are. So okay, yep, that needs to change to 2, doesn't it? There we go. So now we're all sorted. Right. So what do I want to do? I want to just grab my notes over here for a start. Okay, so we've got the select container. So I'm going to use an input, and I'm going to use an input type of button. I don't know what your circumstances are, what you understand about web development, but if you're using inputs like this, chances are you're submitting a form of some type, and chances are this whole thing will go in a form or whatever. But when you post a form, you need to have a name to reference that item. So let's say hero, and it'll take the value of that. So just give you a quick demonstration actually. If you've got PHP, this won't really work because it's not a PHP file, but just go with me. So if you were to post this, then you would have a form telling it where to post it to. So that file that you're posting it to would say, okay, post, and we want to reference this input, and that would be called hero, and that equals this value. So that's the value we're going to be sending, but that is for another video of a completely different subject. But anyway, my point is, it's best to have an input type so you can store the value and send it off to wherever you need to send it. So the default value I'm going to put in is choose, or to choose your hero, and there we go. And I'm going to go back to here, grab this arrow and put it here. Okay, so that's just a button, and there's the downward chevron. So now that is what we're going to be clicking on to show what's coming up now, which is options container. So we're going to put all the options in one container. I'm going to do a span with a class of options, and this one's going to be Batman. And I'm going to copy this, and again Shift Control Alt down on the number pad, and there were 6, weren't there? There we go. This one's Superman. I know these are different order, but I don't care. Hulk. Sorry if you can hear that car alarm going off. Black Panther, and let's do Thor. He doesn't get a look in. There we go. And there they are. Right. So I'm going to steal some styles from the other one. So I'm going to take all this. So the resets, the body, and the select container. And I'm going to go and put it over here. I'm not going to go through all that again because you've already seen it. But again, this here we'll come back to, but just keep an eye on what happens. So we've got all the HTML we need. We've got the button, the arrow, and the container. Okay, let's go over to the styles. So what do we need to do in here? Well, we've done some of it already, so let's go down to, let's make sure we've got everything actually. I'm going to do a display of flex here, and flex direction of column like that, so everything's stacked on top of each other. And then I'm also going to do a row gap, which is a flex property of 5 pixels. It gives them all a gap. I'm actually going to increase the width actually, yeah, 300. And I'm going to give it a min height of 50 pixels. You can already see there's more to do here, but never mind. That isn't 50 pixels, is it? Oh no, we're on the container. Idiot. Anyway, where are we going now? So, position relative. No, this I'll come back to because this has got an auto height. It's going to encapsulate all of this. So when it's closed, these won't show, and this will be in the middle of the screen as shown here. Well, it's going to be in the middle of the 50%. Let's just make that 100, otherwise I'm just going to confuse myself, let alone you. So that's right in the middle, but if I collapse it and that isn't shown, then this will move down to here, because that will be the middle. I don't want it to move, I want it to stay in the same place. So I'm going to do a position relative on the body and a position absolute on this, so I can then say top 200 pixels, save, and no matter whether that's open or closed, this will stay where it is. I hope that made sense. Let's put the border on. Okay, so you'll see in a minute, and I'll perhaps revisit that and show you. But you're probably thinking, well, if this has got a position of absolute, how am I going to apply a position of relative for that little arrow? Well, you don't need to, because this absolute does that job for you. So if you've got something within the container positioned absolute, it will absolutely position it relevant to the container. So that does the job for you. Right, let's go to the actual button itself. Let's actually note this up. Select button, and I'm going to say display. Let's select the button. Did I give it a name? Don't believe I did. Let me just copy this. I'm going to say ID equals selected option. Copy that over to here. And let's do some of this. Okay. Right then, this is going to be a display of block for a change. And I'm going to give it a width of 100% of the container, which it already is, but it will stop it not being. And the height of 50 pixels. I'm also going to give it a font weight again, because if we go over to here, if we take this, see the font weight there and the font weight here, completely different. So if we set it 300, then hopefully they'll both be the same. Okay, you shouldn't really have to do that, but them's the breaks. Right, font size 1.2 rem. Better. I'm going to space the lettering out a bit. 0.5. Yep, just a tad. And I'm going to text a line to the left. Okay, that will come in handy later. Yeah, I don't want a border. Border none. And I don't want an outline. 0. And I am going to give the border a radius, or a non-existent border, of 3 pixels. There we go. And then some padding. And again, I'm going to go round from top clockwise. top is 0. You don't really need to put px for 0, but 60 on the right, 0 on the bottom, and 25 on the left. There you go. Haven't put any on the top or bottom because I've given it a height, so there's no point really. Let's give it a background colour of white smoke. And done. Right, I'm going to give it overflow hidden, just in case one of the values is longer than the button, so it doesn't spill over onto the page. Although overflow hidden is on the select container, so we shouldn't really need that. No, I'm going to get rid of that. Because it's 100% of this container, and that's got overflow hidden already on it, then it won't overflow. Right, arrow. Where are you? Yeah, I gave you a class of arrow. Let's go down and do that. Arrow. Right, position. Absolute. And I'm going to do 20 pixels from the right and 18 pixels from the top. There you go. Now, when you click on this button, because this arrow is on top again, like we did last time, we need to ignore it. Pointer events none, so we're clicking through the arrow to the button. So that is pretty much the button taken care of, and it should look the same over here. Yep, good. Let's just make sure by refreshing. Yep. Okay, so moving on to the options. So what do we have over here? We've got an options container that should have an S. Let's do this. So display. I'm going to do flex for now. It will be none because it will start closed. I'm going to do a flex direction of column. There we go. And also a width of 100%. And border radius of 3 pixels. And we can't see it because we haven't got a background colour, so white smoke. There it is. And you can see it's got a gap because we had the row gap there. We take that out, save, no gap. So you can make that 10 if you want. In fact, yeah, let's do that. Because it's not going to matter if we hover over the gap, because we're going to click and open and it will stay open until we do something. Right, I'm going to put padding all the way around, and because the value is going to be the same, I just need to put the one value in. So shorthand it like that. Okay, I am going to add more padding to the actual items. So let's go to the options, and if you remember, that's the actual options, the list items, if you like. Let's do a font size of 1 rem, and let's apply that padding. So 10 top and bottom, 15 left and right, more shorthand. So if you only give 1 value, then it will apply it to all. If you give 2, it will apply the first at the top and bottom, the second to the left and right, or you can apply the 4, which, as we did before, goes all the way around. So let's do that. Save. There you go. And as you can see, the items line up with the text in here. It's almost as if I'd thought about this. So let's do a border radius of 3 pixels, even though you can't see that yet, and user select none, so you can't highlight the text, so there's no erroring. Right, so now we want the options hover. Background colour, what did I do? Got one over here which is E3E6F1. If we hover, there you go. Although, let's get all the way to the edge. Okay, let's sort that out. Inspect. So that's too big. Okay. So 100% padding 10. Okay. Alright, because I had a 100% width and then adding padding onto it, it's well, that shouldn't have done that because no, didn't add box sizing. Box sizing. Border box. So if we go here, where is it? I know you're there. Where are you? Min width. Yeah, okay. That's what box sizing does. It stops the element getting bigger when you add padding. Right, okay, so we've got the hover effect. Now I'm going to add an active class. All that does is says display flex. And if we go up to the container, the options container, this here, say none, it's gone. And I'm going to go back up here. Where are you? Select container. Remove this from here. You see how that's in the middle, and then if we go and put this back to flex, it's moved up. That's what I was on about earlier. When we click it and we open this, we don't want it to to move up, we want it to stay where it is. So let's do that and put that back. Okay, so it will always stay there. It's an absolute position to the body. Right. Good, that's all the styling done. I think we can remove that horrible red border now. Okay, save that. So the bit you're dreading is the JavaScript. Really isn't that bad. If we go up here, let's say script, and I'm going to say source equals main.js, no path, and after that I'm going to say defer, which means it's going to load the JavaScript after the page. So the JavaScript isn't running perhaps before an element it's trying to find is loaded. So let's close that, go over to here. So the first thing I'm going to do, which I always do, is make sure the document is loaded. So there's a double check really. Document.add event listener, and we're listening for, so that's basically it. document add event listener. So you're, as it says, it's listening for an event on the whole document, and this is a function, and we're going to work inside here to give it an argument, which is basically a callback function. So what do we want to listen for? DOM content loaded, and when it is loaded, we're going to run this function here, and we're going to put everything inside here, and that's that. So firstly, we want to grab the elements we want to work with. So I'm going to create, let's just note this up. I'm going to create a constant called button. Probably guess where I'm going with this. If we go over to index, so the button, it's got an ID of selected options, so let's copy that. So we want to go document, I always spell that wrong, document.query selector, and then in here you can put pretty much anything you like. So we're going to do listen for this, which is here. It's an ID, so I've had to put the hashtag in. If it was class, you could put a dot in. So we've saved it under this name, button, so we can reference that element via this name. So now let's grab the menu, because we want to be able to show and hide it. Basically the same again. Oh my god. Let's try that again. Document.query selector. What's this one called? This. Off that alarm goes again. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's annoying me. So I wasn't concentrating, was I? Class. So like I said, dot name. So the menu, we can refer to it with this constant called menu. And the last one is the actual options. Let's call it don't know what that little noise was. Document.query selector. But this time I'm going to use query selector all, because I want all instances of this options. So there's 1, 2, 6 there. There's 6 options. I want to grab all of them. And there we go. Save. Let's line these up, because why not? Right, so the first thing we want to do is make the open close button work. So we can say grab that button, add an event listener on that, so you're listening for something to happen. What are you listening for? Well, I'm listening for a click, and then when there is a click, I'm going to run this function, which is going to do whatever I tell it to in here. So the menu dot class list dot toggle. This means that it's going to add, let's just put it in active. If you remember, we added an active class down here which says display flex. So if we have a look over here and then we go to, where is it? We're looking for options container. Where are you? There. So this options container. So if we click on here, it's added an active class, and as you can see, it's showing the menu now because this active class has a display of flex. And this toggle means add or remove. If it's there, remove it. If it's not, add it. So it's adding the active class to the class list of this. So there you go. So that's the first thing done. So if we refresh that, you've got choose your hero, but nothing happens when you click anything. Why would it? So let's do the select option. Right, now we need to loop through all the options. So options dot for each. If you remember, the options are here. We grabbed all of them, and now we're going to say for each of them, do this. Carry out this function, and while you're doing it, each one, when you iterate one, call it option. Let's go back in here. There we go. So what do we want to do when we're in here? So we want to take that option, because we've singled out the first one, and we want to add an event listener, and if there's been a click on that, we want to run a function again, and here I'm going to say OP for option, because I want to call it OP. So you're basically passing in that to this function. Whichever one you've clicked on, you're passing it into here. So what are we going to do? Let's just console log it first so you can see what happens. I'm going to say OP target, get the inner text. So we'll go to here, let's open the console log, come down a bit, and then you see Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Hulk, Thor, Black Panther. So it will loop through each of them. It will go through that one, that one, that one, that one, that one, that one. Have you clicked on this? No. Have you clicked on this? Yes. Okay, then do this. So that's how it knows what you're doing. So we don't want this. In fact, let's just get rid of this bit. So we're grabbing the value, which is the text inside. So we want to assign that to the button. So button.value equals save. So if you pick one, that value is assigned to the button now. So if we have a look in Inspector, move this over a little bit. So the button, where are you? Really should have named this better. So selected option. Selected option, the value is Black Panther. So when you submit this in whatever way you're doing it, the value sent will be Black Panther, so that will be correct. And if we change it to Batman, the value is Batman, Hulk, Hulk, and so on. Problem is, this is still open, so all we've got to do now is close it. So let's say if you're clicking on something, if you're clicking on one of these, add that value to this button and then close. So we're going to target the menu again. Wow. Menu and the class list again, but this time instead of toggle we're just going to remove, because we know it's there. Remove active, like so. So if you choose one, Superman, it's there and that closes. The only other thing is if you pick one, or sorry, if you open the menu and then you click over here somewhere, it's still open. But with, where are we? A normal one, if you click away, then it closes. So we may as well make it run properly. So close option list on clicking outside list. So let's say, oh, hang on a minute. So document dot add event listener, and we're listening for a click anywhere on the document basically. If there is one, run this function. I'm going to say E in here. It's quite common practice to put an E in, E for event, I believe. And then we can run a condition. So if E dot target and the ID of that target is not equal to selected option, where are you? This one here. So if you're not equal to this, then we can go menu dot class list dot remove active. So we're removing the, well, basically the same as here. So if we go to Wonder Woman, it's done. If we click over here, it closes. Obviously it toggles on there. I'm thinking we might be able to remove that one. So yeah, it picks it and closes it, so we didn't need that one. Because we're not clicking here, we're clicking outside of here, and it's already got the value. So there you go. That's all. There's not much JavaScript there really, so it's only 3 sections. You've just grabbed a few bits and played around with them. But anyway, that is how you can either create a custom select button, if you like. I don't even know what that's called. Or if you want to go further, you can do the I can't find it. Let's get rid of some. I can't find it now. Let's reopen it, shall we? HTML2. There we go. So that's how you can do a custom one. If you want to go to that much trouble. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Sorry it has been a bit long. Christ. But hopefully you have learnt something and not been frightened off of doing some. I've tried to do this in the simplest way I know possible, and I've put a lot of research into this, and I've seen people do it with radio buttons here and all sorts of things, but I think this is probably the simplest way to do it, and I wish the powers that be would make it simpler to actually customize a select list, but you never know, it might be coming around the corner. But anyway, thank you for enjoying this. Hope you learnt something. Please do subscribe, hit the like button, and I'll be leaving the code in the GitHub repo, which is linked below as always. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.